Hi everyone, my name is Connor and I did my research project on how jobs impact relationships. There's a lot of factors that play into this, but I'm mainly focusing on how jobs impact children and marriages. So the main issue is that 2 out of 3 people report work as being a source of stress in their lives. And 30% of these people report the stress as being extreme. As a result, many people see health related conditions and mental health related conditions that bring employee absence and can cost businesses between $200 billion and $300 billion per year. Also, stress related distractions and fatigue contribute up to 60% of on the job accidents. And I find that really interesting that it's not only job stress that is costing employees, but the employer as well. This chart on the bottom right is really interesting. It shows the relationship between the number of hours worked and GDP per hour worked. And as you can see on the x-axis, as the number of hours increase, the productivity actually decreases. So based on this research, the people who conducted the study found that between 36 and 38 hours are the optimal number of hours worked per week. And anything beyond that can cause lower productivity, and anything less than that, uh, I guess, is not productive enough. So there's 5 main causes of job-related stress. The first being the design of the tasks. This can include long hours and heavy workloads. It could be a project that just doesn't have enough people on it, and bad organization of work. The second is management style. I like to think of Michael Scott from The Office, just a total lack of direction and poor communication that can cause stress and anxiety on people who are working under that type of management. Interpersonal relationships. This would be a lack of support and growth from employees around you. A poor social environment can cause loneliness and a sense of almost depression in the workplace by not having anyone there for you and no support. Fourth is career concerns. This is either a lack of security or a lack of opportunity for growth. If you don't know if you're going to be at your job in the next month or two, that can obviously cause anxiety. And then also, if you don't feel like you can improve or grow in your position, that can cause stress as well. Finally, is environmental conditions, and I think this can be true for more than just in the workplace. A loud environment, dangerous conditions, ergonomic problems can all cause physical and mental pain for people who are working. So why is this important? Job stress impacts relationships significantly. Many people like to think about work-life balance and completely separate the two, that their professional life is separate from their family life, when in reality they are connected. And we can see this significantly through the impact on our relationships. So 5 of these 5 factors listed here are all ways that jobs generally negatively impact our relationships. The first is through social withdrawal. When people are stressed or tired and they get home, they just don't want to be talkative. They don't want to be communicative with their spouse or their kids. So they generally withdraw and watch TV, which is what the guy in this picture is doing, or find other distractions to keep them from their family. Increased irritability and display of anger kind of go together. If you come home in a bad mood, you generally get irritated easier, and you're more likely to show that to your spouse. Lower marital satisfaction is huge. A lot of people who do work long hours or have extreme job stress come home to a less satisfying marriage, and a lot of that can be related to how the job dynamic works throughout the day. Finally, people who have job stress generally see negative mental and physical health impacts, like I had mentioned previously. So, the impact on marriage, as I mentioned, there's lower marital satisfaction, impaired judgment. So, when people come home tired or fatigued, it's harder for them to make clear and coherent decisions with their spouse or with their kids or on personal matters. As a result, 60% of divorced people say that conflict and arguing contributed toward their decision. And I would have to believe that a lot of this can be related to stress that comes from jobs or other areas of each person's life. There's lower tendencies to communicate effectively, both um, within the marriage and with their kids. Difficulty giving full attention. And what I found really interesting about the avoidance piece of this is that a lot of people use their jobs as a way to stay away from home. It's not actually causing them a significant amount of stress, but rather the family environment is causing them more stress. So they tend to stay home, stay at their jobs rather than stay home as a way of getting out of what they think is a poor environment, which probably doesn't help anyway. But the Harvard Business Review did a study on the impact of work on children. And it was really interesting. They found that it's actually not the quantity of time that's being spent with their kids, but the quality of time that matters. So for a child who has more quality time with their family, they generally turn out to be better kids. And it's not always about the amount of time. So kids who grow up in homes with parents that work a lot isn't always an issue for them, because when they are home, they can spend good quality time with their parents. And one thing that's really influencing us nowadays is digital distractions. When parents do come home, it's hard for them to separate work from their personal life. They'll come home and check their email or stay current on the news or do something that really pulls away from their time with their kids. And the Harvard Business Review found that people who don't do this, and when they are home, they're more physically and emotionally present for their kids, generally have better behaved kids. Children are more likely to show behavioral problems with fathers who have prolonged absences, and this could be related to travel or bad working hours, where the father isn't home at night when the children goes to bed, or there in the morning when they go off to school. So fathers who are gone for longer periods of time generally are associated with kids who have behavioral issues. The last thing the report found was that mothers with authoritative positions at work are associated with healthier children. There's something about how when mothers have more of a responsibility at work, in an authoritative position, that they reflect that in their personal life too. And as a result, children are generally healthier. So how to mitigate some of these issues? First is establish boundaries. As I mentioned, don't bring work home. Spend quality time with your spouse. Spend quality time with your kids. Leave work at work, or if you do have to do some work at home, set that boundary and set some time to do it, where you can do it distraction free and get it done as fast as you can. And then when you are with your spouse and kids, spend that time with them. I want to jump down to the bottom here and point out work-life balance against work-life integration. As I mentioned, a lot of people think that they can completely separate their work life or professional life from their personal life, and it really isn't the case anymore. With the flexibility of jobs and technology emerging, there's just so many ways that our work life spills over into our personal life. And so learning how to work with that is an important way to mitigate negative impacts. And then finally is communication. A lot of work is cyclical. So there are busy times and there are slower times. And when times are busy, it's important to be communicating with your spouse and with your kids that you're going to be gone more, or you're going to be working longer hours at home. And that's important for you, and also important for the people around you, so that they're aware of what you're doing and the work that you're doing as well. Generally, when we think about jobs and their impact on relationships, it's normally negative, but jobs do have positive effects as well. This can include increased income for families, um, increased connections with others at work, opportunity for advancement, relationships with managers. There's a lot of ways where your professional life is benefiting from your longer hours, although it may have negative impacts on your family life. However, there are studies about how um, part-time work and employment can and unemployment can actually be worse, where people who are home more than they are away actually have more conflict than people who are away and come home for shorter periods of time. And then lastly, 86% of people who work long hours actually enjoy their job. So it's not like everyone who is working long hours is dreading it. Most people are actually like enjoying what they're doing, but because of their longer absence from their family, that can cause stress for them as well. So my personal experience, my mom was a business owner growing up. Well, she still is, but she traveled a lot to Ohio and Arizona. And as a result, she was gone probably 1 week out of it every month. And she had long hours, so she would either be gone in the morning or wouldn't be home till pretty late at night. She had longer hours, but like I said, it was cyclical. So there would be periods of time where she would be home more. We would take good vacations together and things like that. And my father was a stay-at-home dad and a handyman. So despite my mom being gone a lot, my father was home for longer periods of time where he would bring us to school, bring us fishing during the summer, do things like that, and spend quality time with us kids. So I think one fun thing for the forum might be to reflect on your own experiences. You know, how did your parents' occupation affect your childhood, and how might it have affected their marriage? So if you want to reflect on that, that might be something interesting to see how your parents' jobs impacted you and themselves. And finally, I have sources for my information.